Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Used of animals that do not migrate. A physician, especially an intern, who lives in a hospital and cares for hospitalized patients under the supervision of the medical staff of the hospital. The resident was receiving special clinical training at the hospital. Someone who lives at a particular place for a prolonged period or who was born there. Living in a particular place. Resident aliens. Used of animals that do not migrate. A physician, especially an intern, who lives in a hospital and cares for hospitalized patients under the supervision of the medical staff of the hospital. A physician, especially an intern, who lives in a hospital and cares for hospitalized patients under the supervision of the medical staff of the hospital. Someone who lives at a particular place for a prolonged period or who was born there. Someone who lives at a particular place for a prolonged period or who was born there. A member of a military force who is residing in a conquered foreign country. A licensed medical practitioner. A student in medical school. A licensed medical practitioner. I felt so bad I went to see my doctor. Restore by replacing a part or putting together what is torn or broken. A person who holds PhD degree, or the equivalent, from an academic institution. She is a doctor of philosophy in physics. Roman Catholic Church. A title conferred on 33 saints who distinguished themselves through the orthodoxy of their theological teaching. Alter and make impure, as with the intention to deceive. Children take the roles of physician or patient or nurse and pretend they are at the physician's office. The children explored each other's bodies by playing the game of doctor. Give medical treatment to. A licensed medical practitioner. A person who holds PhD degree, or the equivalent, from an academic institution. A licensed medical practitioner. A licensed medical practitioner. I felt so bad I went to see my doctor. The United States federal department that promotes and administers domestic and foreign trade, including management of the Census and the Patent Office, created in 1913. A licensed medical practitioner. A radioactive transuranic element synthesized by bombarding Einsteinium with alpha particles. MD is the current symbol for mendelevium, but MV was formerly the symbol. A doctor's degree in medicine. A mid-Atlantic state. One of the original 13 colonies. A person who inhabits a particular place. A plant or animal naturalized in a region. Denizens of field and forest. A person who inhabits a particular place. Activation by an inner spirit or force or principle. The Holy Spirit is the indweller of the Church and its members. A person who inhabits a particular place. A person who inhabits a particular place. A person who inhabits a particular place. A resident of a suburb. Someone who pays rent to use land or a building or a car that is owned by someone else. The landlord can evict a tenant who doesn't pay the rent. A holder of buildings or lands by any kind of title, as ownership or lease. Any occupant who dwells in a place. Occupy as a tenant. A resident of a town or city. A resident or native of Alexandria, especially Alexandria in Egypt. Of or relating to Alexander the Great or his empire. A resident of a town or city. A person from the same town as yourself. A fellow townsman. A covering, plate or mat, that protects the surface of a table, i.e., from the condensation on a cold glass or bottle. A resident of a coastal area. Someone who coasts. Composed of many distinct individuals united to form a whole or colony. Coral is a colonial organism. A resident of a colony. Of or relating to or characteristic of or inhabiting a colony. Of animals who live in colonies, such as ants. A person who lives in the Dales of northern England. Someone who resides in the same house with you. A patient who is residing in the hospital where he is being treated. A person serving a sentence in a jail or prison. One of several resident of a dwelling, especially someone confined to a prison or hospital. A person who lives in a metropolis. In the Eastern Orthodox Church, this title is given to a position between bishop and patriarch, equivalent to archbishop in Western Christianity. Relating to or characteristic of a metropolis. Metropolitan area. An extreme deviation from the mean. A person who lives away from his place of work. An occupant who owns the home that she lives in. A temporary resident.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.